Have you ever wondered what goes through a person's mind in their final moments, especially when they're a queen about to be executed? Today, we're stepping back in time to the chilling morning of May 19, 1536, to witness the final hours of Anne Boleyn, one of the most enigmatic and tragic figures in English history. Her story is more than just a historical event. It's a tale of ambition, love, betrayal, and a shocking end that still resonates centuries later. How did a queen, once the object of a king's obsessive desire, end up on the executioner's block? Stick with us as we uncover the final, heart-wrenching chapter of her life. It was a grey dawn in London. Inside the grim walls of the Tower of London, Queen Anne Boleyn prepared for death. Just days earlier, she had been convicted on a shocking list of charges: adultery, incest with her own brother, and high treason against her husband, King Henry VIII. But were these charges real? Historians today almost universally agree they were fabricated, a web of lies spun to clear the path for the king. The real crime, in Henry's eyes, was her failure to give him what he desperately craved: a son and heir. After years of pursuing her, breaking with the Catholic Church, and changing the course of English history to make her his wife, Henry's passion had soured into deadly disappointment. Anne had given him a daughter, the future Elizabeth I, but after a series of miscarriages, the king's patience ran out. His eye had already wandered to a new lady-in-waiting, the demure Jane Seymour, who he believed could finally provide the male heir he needed. The architect of Anne's demise was the king's chief minister, Thomas Cromwell. A master political strategist, Cromwell saw which way the wind was blowing. To secure his own position and serve his king, he orchestrated the entire case against Anne. He interrogated members of her inner circle, using torture and coercion to extract false confessions. His goal was not just to see Anne dead, but to have her marriage to Henry Arnold declared invalid from the start. This would render their daughter, Elizabeth, illegitimate, and ensure that Henry's future children with Jane Seymour would be the undisputed heirs to the throne. It was a cold, calculated move. Even Archbishop Thomas Cranmer, a friend of Anne's and her personal confessor, was powerless. He privately believed in her innocence, but under immense pressure from the king, he was forced to declare the marriage null and void, sealing her fate. Cranmer was reportedly so distressed that he wept as he made the declaration, knowing he was condemning an innocent woman. In a strange twist that Henry likely framed as an act of mercy, he altered Anne's sentence. Instead of being burned at the stake, the common punishment for female traitors, or beheaded with a crude executioner's axe, she would be granted a more dignified death. Henry ordered a specialist to be brought over from France. An expert swordsman from Calais. Using a sword instead of an axe was considered a cleaner, quicker death, a privilege usually reserved for the highest nobility. But there's a dark detail here. The executioner was summoned before an trial had even concluded. This tells us everything we need to know. Her guilt was a foregone conclusion. The trial was pure theatre. The verdict had been decided long before the jury was assembled. The king wanted her gone, and nothing was going to stop him. As the sun rose higher on that fateful morning, a scaffold was erected on Tower Green, a space reserved for private high-profile executions. Accounts from eyewitnesses are astonishing. They all describe Anne Boleyn as being remarkably calm, almost serene. There were no hysterics, no desperate pleas. She emerged from her chambers dressed elegantly in a dark grey damask gown trimmed with ermine fur. A symbol of her royal status she refused to relinquish. She walked with a steady grace, her famous dark eyes taking in the crowd of about 1,000 spectators who had gathered to watch a queen die. The constable of the Tower, Sir William Kingston, later wrote that he had seen many men and women executed, but he had never seen anyone meet their end with such joy and pleasure. It was as if she was walking towards a release, not an ending. On the scaffold, she turned to address the crowd. Her final speech was a masterpiece of careful wording. She didn't lash out at the king or directly proclaim her innocence in a way that could be seen as treasonous. Instead, she spoke with humility and grace. She asked the people to pray for the king, calling him a gentle and merciful prince, a statement dripping with irony that would not have been lost on those who knew the truth. She acknowledged the law by which she was judged, but she cleverly avoided admitting any guilt. "I come here to die," she said, "not to accuse any man, nor to speak anything of that whereof I am accused and condemned to die." She concluded by commending her soul to God. With her ladies in waiting, weeping beside her, Anne knelt down. She tucked her hair into her cap to ensure a clean strike and kept repeating, "To Jesus Christ I commend my soul." The French swordsman, to distract her, reportedly called out, "Where is my sword?" As she turned her head to look, he swung the blade in a single, silent arc. It was over in an instant. The aftermath was just as shocking as the execution itself. While Anne's body lay on the scaffold, King Henry VIII was reportedly miles away, waiting for the cannon shot that would signal her death. As soon as the sound reached him, he declared, "The deed is done. Uncouple the hounds, and let us follow the sport." He spent the rest of the day celebrating. The very next day, he became formally betrothed to Jane Seymour, and they were married just 10 days later. The speed was scandalous. There was no period of mourning for the Queen. He once moved heaven and earth to marry. As for Anne, her end was devoid of all dignity. No royal coffin was provided. Her body and severed head were placed into an old arrow chest and hastily buried in an unmarked grave in the chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula, within the Tower walls. It was a final, brutal insult from the king she had once captivated. But history has a way of delivering its own justice. The man who engineered Anne's fall, Thomas Cromwell, would not enjoy his power for long. Just 4 years later, he too fell from the king's favour. Accused of treason and heresy, Cromwell met the same fate as the queen he had destroyed. He was executed on Tower Hill in 1540, a victim of the same ruthless court politics he had mastered so effectively. As they say, what goes around, comes around. And what of the daughter Anne left behind? The little girl who was declared illegitimate and cast aside from the line of succession. That girl, Elizabeth, would grow up to become Queen Elizabeth I, one of the most powerful and successful monarchs in all of English history. She reigned for over 44 years, a period known as the Elizabethan Golden Age, and she never forgot her mother. It's said that throughout her life, Queen Elizabeth I secretly wore a special locket ring. On the outside, it was adorned with pearls and diamonds, but inside, hidden from view, were 2 portraits, one of herself and one of her mother, Anne Boleyn. It was a quiet, lifelong tribute to the woman whose tragic death paved the way for her own legendary reign. Today, there is no serious debate among historians. The charges against Anne Boleyn were a sham. She was the victim of a political assassination, a judicial murder orchestrated by a paranoid king and his ambitious minister. The execution of a crowned and anointed queen was unprecedented and sent shockwaves through the courts of Europe. It was a brutal demonstration of Henry VIII's absolute power and his capacity for cruelty when his desires were thwarted. Anne Boleyn's story serves as a powerful reminder of the fragility of power and the dark side of royal ambition. Her life was cut short, but her legacy endures not just as the tragic second wife of Henry VIII, but as the mother of a great queen and a pivotal figure who changed the course of a nation forever. Her courage in the face of death has cemented her place as one of history's most compelling figures. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the past. If you found this story as fascinating as we do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history's most dramatic moments. We'll see you in the next video.